G'day, welcome to video number 13. Today I want to talk a bit about postnatal depression. Okay, so if you've got yourself a baby and it's not all sweetness, joy and light like you might have expected or like in the fairy tales, more likely you're feeling sick and sorry for yourself, physically exhausted, sore, emotionally you're overwhelmed, teary, and you're wondering what on earth you've done to yourself to so utterly rearrange your whole life. Okay, this video is exactly for you. So by the end of it, hopefully we'll have you feeling a whole lot better. Okay, having a baby, it's a bit like signing up for at least a 20-year sentence of responsibility and expenses, and you can't give it back. I've sometimes heard it called buyer's remorse, but if it's a physical product, you can take it back, chuck it out, buy another one, but you can't do those things with a baby. You've got it, you're stuck with it, for better or worse, it's yours. Okay, let's have a think about this from a few different angles, and we'll see what we can do to try and help things along in the right direction for you. Now, if you were sitting in front of me like a real normal client, probably I would see three things very clearly. Your energy patterns, that I can see, they would be disturbed. At least a little, probably a lot, and maybe extremely so. But the whole energy patterns would be scrambled, and this is largely what you are sensing. Emotionally, you'd be in some kind of state of shock. You'd be scared, confused, tense, overwhelmed. You wouldn't be thinking clearly about anything. You're probably working your way through my box of tissues. Physically, you'd be exhausted, run down. Growing babies and then breastfeeding them sucks an awful lot of physical nutrients and energy out of you. Now, that would make my life as a therapist fairly easy. I'd know exactly what to do. You sort of go balance your energy patterns, sort out a lot of the emotions. I'll give you a few supplements, and give you a few ideas on how to look at things differently and what you can do a little bit differently. And all of this is assuming, like my average sort of client, that you do have a stable relationship, you do have a supportive, understanding partner, and you do have enough physical and financial resources so that you're not really struggling. There are plenty of people who have it much worse than that. Single parents, very limited incomes, living in physically very difficult circumstances. Okay, so mostly I'm pitching this at what I would see as my typical average client. Okay, remember, rebalance the energy patterns. That's probably the most important thing. It's something I can do, but you probably can't do for yourself. We'll do that at the end of the session because you're likely to get very relaxed, go to sleep and stop listening. But by itself, it may not be sufficient. Second thing was you need to physically rebuild. So we'll give you a few supplements, and I'll show you some in a moment, to try and help you physically get your strength back. Again, it's an important part of the process, but by itself, it's not enough. And thirdly, we would have a chat about what was bothering you and some ideas on what you might be able to do differently. Because you do need to make some adjustments in how you think about yourself, how you think about your new circumstances, and maybe how you go about organising your life now. Now, if you get a handle on all three of these things, then you go a long way to helping yourself to cope much better with your new situation. Now, bear in mind, you're watching the video, you're not in front, so you can't ask direct questions, and I can't answer them directly, and I can't give you very specific personal advice, but I can cover a lot of the things that come up often. Okay, now remember, healing meditation will come at the end. A couple of supplements to try and rebuild yourself physically. Now, I'll show you 3. These ones I just happen to have hanging around the house because I use them too. I've got no vested interest or financial kickback or anything from the particular brands. You can get these things probably in your supermarket, health food shop, chemist. You get them on eBay. They're easily available, and they're about as safe as any kind of supplements can be. So, first one, make sure you can see this. Okay, it's vitamin B or omega B complex. This is just a supermarket brand, and well, here's what they look like. They're just brown pills. Okay, now, put them aside for a moment. Vitamin Bs are very important to you. When your body gets stressed, it sucks all the vitamin Bs out of your body. When you run low on vitamin Bs, your energy levels are also low because Bs go with producing energy, and your emotions and thoughts get very scrambled very quickly because the vitamin Bs have a role there. So it's one of those circular sort of loops. You get stressed, you run out of Bs, you're out of Bs, you get stressed much more easily, and you kind of get stuck there. So replenishing your vitamin Bs is a very useful thing to do. Get yourself some and start taking them. Now, second idea, I'll give you a bit of a choice here, some kind of a general tonic. Now, there are 2 that I use more or less regularly. One of them, I got this one from the supermarket, Super Greens. There are different sorts of brands and different combinations of these things: wheatgrass, barley grass, spirulina, super greens, core greens. But basically, they're some kind of sprouted type vegetable, whatever. And then they're all sort of pulverized up into a green powder. Now, this one looks like, okay. So you put a scoop of that in a glass of water, stir it all up and drink it. The benefits are they contain trace amounts of lots of different vitamins and minerals, and they're very easily absorbed into your body. So you need at least 1 a day, but there's I've never come across an upper limit or anybody poisoning themselves by drinking green powders. So lots of it. Another one, something along the same lines. Here we are, is our goji berries. Okay. They contain lots of different vitamins and minerals, which are a wonderful way to sort of detox your body and to build it up after it's been totally stressed out. So you can go definitely get the Bs, pick yourself 1 or both of the green powder and the goji berries and hop to it. If you're good buddies with your chemist or the person in your natural health food shop, ask them. They'll be able to tell you a lot more, maybe give you more different options. If you want to get serious, take a trip to a professional naturopath and get some very specific advice on your nutrition and maybe some herbal supplements. It's a good investment. Right. Put all those things aside. Enough of those. Let's have a chat about some of the issues. First, a sort of practical angle of how you got yourself into this. Again, assuming you're the average person that I would see in this game, you did it all to yourself. You wanted a baby. Now, you deliberately got pregnant. Now, maybe it seemed like a good idea at the time, or maybe your hormones were running hot. Maybe you talked it over with your husband and he mentioned all the different financial and emotional and physical sort of problems we were going to have with a baby or an extra baby or the third or the fourth baby. But probably there was someone there, like a hubby, with a voice of practical reason. But despite all that, you wanted a baby and you went ahead and you've done it anyway. So now you've got your baby. Life's turning out to be a lot tougher than you thought it would be, should be. Okay. Now, there's a lot of perhapses in here. I mean, perhaps you had a frustrating time getting pregnant. Maybe it took longer than you thought. You know, you might have even spent years and multiple goes and God knows how many thousands of dollars on IVF. But it's quite common that if in these days women put off having babies for years and years and years, and they suddenly decide they want one and their body doesn't cooperate instantly. Okay, it happens, but you got over that. Now you've got your baby. Maybe you had a pretty rough pregnancy, and some people do it easier and some do it tougher than others. You might have done it a bit tough. You might have spent a lot of time throwing up, feeling crook, really being off your game. But somewhere there, you've toughed it out. You get to the delivery part. Maybe it was difficult or prolonged. Maybe you even had some life-threatening complications and a very traumatic delivery. In extreme cases, you might have even disappeared and had your near-death experience because it was a really rough show. Now, you've survived that too. Now, probably you've got a young suckling baby. Your body has become like a sleep-deprived milk wagon, and life consists of feeding, changing, cuddling a baby, and you haven't got much time and energy left for anything else. So your husband, any other kids, anything else for yourself, somehow it's all just gone by the board. It's gone. Okay. Now, at some point in this sequence, you've probably hit a brick wall. You've cracked up under the pressure. You're really struggling to cope, and life is really no fun. There are different degrees of how bad you can feel about it, but you feel bad, and life isn't working for you. Right. Next problem is, again, it's probably you doing it to yourself. You don't want to admit defeat. You don't want to admit that maybe having this baby wasn't such a great idea. You don't like to admit that you are not coping. You don't like to think that other people are looking at you and maybe judging you and maybe saying, yeah, well, you can't cope. There goes your perfect house. But somewhere it becomes obvious to your nearest and dearest, usually your hubby, that you really are not coping and you are going to need some help. Now, you might take a bit of convincing of this, but again, you'll get to this point where you're prepared to accept some help. Maybe you figure it out for yourself and go get it, or maybe your husband insists, or maybe even drags you along to a therapist. I had them too. But whatever, here you are, you're at the point where you are now interested in getting some help and you're prepared to try things. You're prepared to admit you need the help. So, one of the obvious questions is, why, oh why did I do this to myself and to the rest of my family and the people around me? What possessed me? Okay, well, we've covered the physical part that you've been through. Let's look at this from a spiritual perspective. I mean, this is how I view life all the time, but most other people tend not to. Okay, just hear me out. You are following your life plan. You probably don't consciously remember much about that right now, but you are. You see, you're really a soul, a spirit being. You existed before you were born. You were here with some kind of a mission, a little plan to follow through. You will follow it through as your life goes by. And when your physical life's over and you leave, I mean, you, the spirit, soul, consciousness, you leaves, you will take all your experiences and things with you. But the key part here is you come with a plan. It's built in when you're born. Okay, so you've carried it with you all your life. The part of it that says I want to have a baby or two or three or four, it sort of comes to the surface at the right point when the circumstances are right. And to you, it might just seem like it's a good idea, or you have this need to breed. You might want to blame it on your hormones or something else, or you might want a baby because your friend's got a baby. Whatever. I mean, you can call it what you like. I prefer the idea of this is your life plan, but I can't prove it to you. So yeah, maybe you can humour me and go with the life plan idea. Now, your plan for this life includes the bundle of personal abilities and interests and things that make up your personality. It also included your parents and your siblings. That's a family that you were born into. Obviously, the country, the time, the place, things. It includes your partner and your children. It is like you knew all these key people back in spirit world, but before you were ever born. The nearest simple way I can describe it is you're a bit like a theatre group or something, a bunch of amateur actors, and each time around you will take on different roles and you bounce off each other and you provide the sort of experiences that each other need to grow. Now, if you go with this life plan idea, it's no accident you are having this baby. You are both part of the other one's life plan. So the baby has their life plan, their unique personality, and it definitely belongs to you because you're both going to provide something that the other one needs to experience and to bounce off. You might want to keep coming back to this idea lots of times in the future when you wonder why on earth your kid is like it is and why it's doing what it's doing. Okay, now change tack a little bit. In raising your child, you are training them for life. It's like a long-term job. It's not a 5-minute thing. It's not just a baby thing. It's like a for life thing. You set the example that they are going to follow. And you do this by living your life. Kids typically follow what their parents do much more than anything their parents say. So, yeah, if you think about it for you and your parents, well, probably you've grown up absorbing an awful lot of things that your mum and dad did. So unless you very consciously, deliberately think about it and change it, then it probably just automatically follows. You will do what your parents did. And looking ahead, you are now the role model, the example, and your kid will grow up absorbing everything that you do, and it will then go on to repeat it, unless, of course, the child then has its own epiphany, rethinks everything, and decides to do it differently. And most people don't, by the way. Most people just follow along. Now, don't get stressed or overwhelmed about any of this stuff and the responsibility of you being the parent and setting the example. The baby knew what it was getting itself in for when it chose you as a parent. This is a two-way thing. You chose each other. Okay, now we change tack again. Let's have some very practical ideas on what you can do to help yourself to do this job better. Now, despite the way things look right now, things are never as tough as you think they are. Now, they might be tough, but not as bad as you think. Now, mothers in particular, or anybody, can do it, but mothers in particular, seem to find hundreds of ways in which they can emotionally beat themselves up. That they have all these rules, ideas, goals, whatever you call it, in their head about they have to be the perfect parent. They've got to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect housewife. They've got to have the perfect house. They've got to look good for the neighbours. They've got to look better than their friends. But there is no end of stuff that you've put in your own head about what you expect you should be able to do and what you think you are responsible for. As soon as you can let go of some of these self-imposed I have to expectations, your life can become a whole lot easier. Now, I'm going to pound this point a little bit here. You do not have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect at anything. Your family does not have to be perfect. Your home does not have to look and run perfectly. You do not have to impress anybody else. Give yourself a little bit of slack here. You just do the best you can, and that's that. It is not your job to make sure the baby is perfectly happy about absolutely everything all of the time. I mean, that's mission impossible. It's just not going to happen like that. But if you keep trying, it's a sure way to drive yourself nuts. Now, don't go too far in the other direction. I mean, it is your job to love them, to feed them, to clothe them, to play with them, to let them grow up, to provide a happy home. I mean, all that sort of stuff is your job, but you do it within reasonable sort of bounds. But to be able to do that, there's a couple of other things you have to pay attention to. Absolute top priority is you have to look after your own health and happiness. You see, if you crash physically and emotionally, like now, you're not worth a cracker to yourself or to the baby or anybody else. Remember the idea of the safety drill in an airplane. If you've ever been on an airplane, they always go through this thing first. If something goes wrong, the oxygen mask pops down in front of you, and they always tell you you put your own oxygen mask on first before you try and put one on the child. And the logic is very simple. If you pass out while you were chasing the kid around trying to put their mask on, you're both goners. If you put it on the kid and then you pass out, the kid's not going to be able to put it on you. So you've got to do the sensible thing, put your own mask on so you keep functioning, then you put it on the baby. That principle is probably true for a whole pile of things in your life. If the baby, the child, depends on you, you have to look after you so that you are able to look after the child. Okay. Top priority, your own happiness, sanity, health. Now, another thing that some women kind of forget in all this chaos, you need to look after your husband. Okay? You need his support, and the baby does too. Parenting is definitely a team sport. Both you and the baby are part of your hubby's life plan, just like he's part of your life plan. So yeah, it's a bit of a team game thing happening here, but you do have to look after him. You can't just ignore him or treat him like crap and expect he's going to keep supporting you forever. There are limits to things. Okay. And something else mothers often forget. You got to give the kid a bit of space. They've got to learn to sort of push a few boundaries and do a few things for themselves. And this starts early. I mean, sometimes they're going to cry and there's not much you can do about it. So let them cry. They need to fall over and pick themselves up. They need to get dirty. They need to risk hurting themselves by falling off things or climbing on things. They need chances to do their own thing. And always they'll be pushing boundaries, and always you should be letting the boundaries go out a bit. You want to mother them. You do not want to smother them. Okay, got that? Mother, don't smother. All right, next bunch of ideas. You are not alone. Okay, so you got to go get some help when you need it. Now, there's all that professional sort of stuff that gets organised from the doctor in the hospital. You do have doctors. You got the hospital, you have the community nurse, you might have a breastfeeding consultant or a home visitor or something. They will set you up with mothers group. All of this kind of stuff just kind of comes with the package deal after you go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm pregnant. But maybe more important longer term is your extended family. Babies have grandparents, aunties, uncles, neighbours, friends, cousins. I mean, they've got lots of extra people out there that are more than willing to help. So somebody will have the answers you're looking for. Somebody will be able to help out with childminding, babysitting, social support, housework, whatever. But you're going to have to ask. Now, don't be ashamed or embarrassed about asking. These situations are often a everybody wins thing. Grandparents love babies and kids, well, usually. The kids love having somebody else to play with and to spoil them a bit. And you can get a break to go do something else that you need to do. And if you've got cousins or neighbours' kids, it's your instant play group. They can entertain each other. So you have them over to play, or you send your kid to their place to play. But key thing here is never be too proud to ask. Generally, these other guys are very understanding and willing to help out. So have a little bit of faith that you can and you will find whatever support you need. So look for it and ask for it. It sounds simple, but you have to ask. Now, next idea. People like to compare themselves and their babies to others. Now, this is okay up to a point. By looking at other people and comparing them, there is a good side. You can see how you're going in comparison. And you can say, yeah, I like that idea. They're doing that really well. I might copy that when I get home. I might say, that looks a bit like what I do, and it doesn't seem to be working so well. Maybe I should change that, just drop it. And that's fine. That's all natural part of life. However, you've got to remember, everybody is their own individual. They have their own unique personality, their own set of circumstances. Basically, they're following their own life plan. So you don't go judging. You don't judge them. You don't judge yourself. You just let it be. You develop some kind of tolerance here. Maybe you can offer them some help. Maybe you can ask for help. But tolerance is a big thing. Now, one last thought before we get on with some healing meditation. Being a parent is probably one of the most personally rewarding and emotionally fulfilling things that you can do. There will be ups and downs, and right now you're in one of the downs. There will be triumphs, wins, there'll be disasters, losses. But overall, the big majority of parents, by the time they've been through it, will say being a parent was one of the most rewarding experiences they had in their whole life. So if you can remember to always focus on the good bits, the funny bits. I mean, even in hindsight, when you get through a disaster, you'll always find something to have a look at and laugh about. So focus on enjoying your experience. Okay, focus on the good bits and enjoy it. Now, let's have a go at a healing meditation. I'm going to disappear into my healing space like I normally do if you've watched any of the other videos. All you have to do is sit back, or in this case, preferably lie back, let it happen. Let the peaceful energies flow through you. Let them dissolve all your tensions and worries. If you go to sleep, that's fine, stay there. I'll be at this for 15, 20 minutes. I'll talk to you at the end and maybe you'll wake up. But if you just keep sleeping on forever, yeah, that's okay. Eventually you'll wake up anyhow. Okay, so I'm going to have a nice meditation and just adjust that one little bit. Okay, I'm going to have a nice meditation. You just lay back, let it happen. Okay, good night. Okay, time to wake up. Just gently open your eyes, wriggle around a little bit, maybe have a yawn and a stretch. You can stay in your nice, warm, gooey, relaxed state for a while. If you want to go back and watch the video again, you can do it as often as you like. Okay, now I hope that's been of some help. So right now, it's bye from me.